Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Now, is this not the coolest night of the year or what? How about it, huh? You know, every time I come here, I think where else in America can you go and just see everything that is good about our country? You know, this is the place where 240 years ago, our forefathers, basically wrote out the very principles of what we're about in the United States. It's a place where we come tonight and look at the topics that we're talking about. Instead of all the social media crap that you see day to day, we're talking about patriotism. We're talking about duty. We're talking about our country. We're talking about selfless service, humility. And it just makes me feel so good to be not only a part of the Travis Manion Foundation, but to be in our country, and frankly, to be here at this time for our country, because I think it represents such an important ideal for many others to be thinking about today. I couldn't be prouder, and so I just want to say thanks to all of you for being here and sharing tonight, and give yourselves a big round of applause. Next, look, I've got to do a few thank yous. I'm a kid that came from the Midwest, from a big family, and that was lucky enough to get into West Point, and going to the academy, serving my country, frankly opened up doors that I could never have dreamed of. And there's no way I would be doing what I am at Johnson & Johnson were it not for my opportunity to serve my country. And as I stand up here tonight, I also know that there's no way I could do what I do as the CEO of Johnson & Johnson without 140,000 employees around the world who get up every day trying to do their best to help people live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And so I'd just like to take a moment to recognize the Johnson & Johnson employees who are here, who are making a big difference in so many different ways. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do for us and for patients around the world. Thank you, guys. You're awesome. You couldn't make me more proud. Next, I just want to do a big thank you to Ryan and Tom. I say this every year, I think, can Ryan get any better? And, having known Ryan from the time when she was, I think, in junior high school, when she used to babysit for our son, and to watch her grow and develop, not only as a young woman, but as a mother, as a leader, as somebody who's making such a difference. It's really pretty remarkable, Ryan. And I know your dad is incredibly proud, but I know your mother's up there in heaven, smiling from ear to ear. And all of us are also incredibly proud of the impact that you've had, that you continue to have. So let's give Ryan a big round of applause as well for all that she stands for. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell a quick Janet story, because by now all of you have seen that bottle of Basil Hayden on your table, and you go, what the hell are they doing passing out a bottle of bourbon? We've already had a bunch of wine. And for those of you that have had a chance to either attend our tailgate, what is now the Travis Manion Foundation tailgate, you know that for many years we had this tradition where right before the game we would all get together and would line the shot glasses up, and we'd bring out the Basil Hayden, and I'd always say, now this is not the Jack Daniels that you drank in high school. This is really good bourbon. And we'd pour around, and we'd all stand there, and it really wasn't about beat Army, beat Navy. It was about thanks to all the men and women, frankly, who put themselves in harm's way so that we could be at an event like this to have such a great time. And I'll never forget, one year we were doing that. We got to the last pour, and there was probably about that much, okay, maybe that much left in the bottle of the Basil Hayden. And I went to hand the last shot glass to Janet, and Janet said, shot glass, hell. She kind of put it on the ground. She grabbed that bottle and tipped that bad boy up. Just like a true Marine wife and mom. And she did that whole thing, and I said, damn, woman, that's quite a swig. And, we went in, and that, but, to me, that was the spirit of Janet. She was always there. She was ready to have a good time, ready to do a challenge, but it was all in the spirit of thanking the men and women who are serving, our country. So, look, as we're here tonight, we're incredibly fortunate because I think everyone in here has served in some way. You've served in the military, you've served by supporting the military, and to be here in this great venue at the Union League with so much history and with so many great Americans is pretty awesome. But we can't forget that over the past several years, in addition to the people in this room, there's been about 2.5 million people who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And while many of them are going on doing awesome things right now, they're driving our economy. They're making a difference in communities and towns, throughout our country. Some of them are still hurting. And too many of them still haven't been able to fully integrate. Too many of them haven't quite found their way back, and they've got some challenges. And unfortunately, too many are taking their own lives. And that's unacceptable, particularly for those who have put themselves in harm's way to protect our freedoms, again, so that we can do things like this great event tonight. And so, in recognizing that while we've made a lot of progress, there's still a lot of work to do, this year a group from the Veterans Administration, sponsored by Secretary Shulkin, as well as some people from Johnson & Johnson who in their spare time raised their hand and said, you know what, I want to get involved in something bigger than me and help make a difference. We're able to work with in a public-private partnership. They made a call. We actually got Tom Hanks involved to put together a public service announcement to make sure that the rest of the country, the other 99%, isn't forgetting about that 1% that served. And we just want to share it with you today.
In the fabric of America, they are the toughest threads, our bravest and most selfless. They raised their hands, stepped forward, and served for each other, for you, and me. One of the first things they learned was the code that every service member lives by. Leave no one behind. Now all of us need to live by it too, because some veterans are being left behind. 20 of them take their own lives every day. Why? It's not simple. It never is. What matters is that we're there for them, just like they were there for us. A handshake, a phone call, a simple gesture make a big difference to a veteran in crisis. Learn how to be there for a veteran at BeThereForVeterans.com. Honor the code. Be there. Leave no one behind.
Part of a much larger campaign. And what's really important for everyone in here to understand is we can make a difference. And sometimes it's not just the big advertisement or PSA, but it's the call that we make to remember the person down the street or the friend that we went to school with who may not be doing so well. And it's that kind of connectivity, community support, outreach. And it's why organizations, frankly, like the Travis Manion Foundation and other public-private partnerships can really make a difference at the ground level. And we think it's critical that organizations like this one come together and continue to try to meet these evolving needs of not only veterans and service members, but their families. And I know that when we work together, nonprofit organizations and other associations, we can make a difference because, frankly, those kind of statistics are unacceptable. And to make that possible, we've also got to make sure that we recognize the organizations that are making a difference and that are really having a meaningful difference in the lives of service members and their families. And here tonight, we have a number of organizations that were previous Travis Manion Foundation Community Leadership Award winners alongside Johnson & Johnson. I just want to recognize them. So after I do, hold your applause and we'll clap very loudly and cheer for all of them. Comcast, NBC Universal, J. Walter Thompson, and the Carlisle Group. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much for what you do. So the next part of my role in tonight's event is pretty special, and that is I get a chance to introduce and celebrate our honored guest. And this, my friends, is a true American hero. I mean, this is somebody that has served our country, for over 60 years. Started as an aviator and a flight instructor in the United States Navy back in 1954. And his career has spanned several generations of our country's leaders. He served as a now, if you ever wake up and feel in the I'm not worthy category, he started out by serving in several different terms as a congressman. He was a U.S. ambassador to NATO. Then he went on to be the White House Chief of Staff under President Ford. He was a presidential envoy to the Middle East for President Reagan. And then he decided to be the CEO of a couple Fortune 500 companies. He was chairman of another company and was awarded our country's highest civilian award, the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award. Now let's take a look at the amazing work that he and the foundation named after him, the Rumsfeld Foundation, is doing today.
So you yourself were a wrestler, and as you know, Travis was a wrestler, and I remember my first time meeting you. We came to an Army-Navy wrestling match.
I think I was probably cheering for the Navy.
Yeah, I'm sure you were, yes. And you went and spoke to the team. You know, it's interesting to see full circle. Who would have thought, you know, that night, where we would be today?
I watched Travis wrestle, but you would know far better than I about his entire life and the kind of example he set for others and what you believe he contributed.
The Rumsfeld Foundation has been a strong partner of Travis Manion Foundation for more than 7 years. They have generously supported TMF's Character Does Matter program, which empowers veterans and families of the fallen to develop character in future generations.
What we try to do is to find charities that relate to the military that are doing things that we think are important. Your program has veterans or the families of veterans going out and helping to familiarize society, particularly with young adults, I think is a healthy thing, a good thing, and we're happy to support it.
The mission of the Rumsfeld Foundation is to encourage leadership, public service, and free political and economic systems, both at home and abroad. And they are committed to providing opportunities for rising leaders and honoring those who serve this country.
It is important that people in our society better understand the United States Armed Forces, the sacrifice they make. The idea that character does matter is important. That's something we think is worthy to support, and we're pleased you're doing what you're doing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here to accept the 2017 Community Leadership Award on behalf of the Rumsfeld Foundation is the former Secretary of Defense himself, the Honorable Donald Rumsfeld. Well, I tried to be. Well, it's a good paper. Yeah. I got it.
My goodness, thank you. My goodness. Alex, thank you. Griff, you do a terrific job also. It's impressive. As one who has spent a couple of decades in the private sector, I must say that Alex, I have a great deal of respect for you and what you've accomplished, your company and what they do for our society. And I certainly thank you for your terrific support of the Manion Foundation. I want to say a special hello to those who are serving in the military, those who have served in the military, and to the families of those who've served in the military, who've also served. So thank you all very much. You have my respect. General Dunford, 4 stars in the United States Marine Corps. There are so few people who get that far up the ladder. And I must say that it is good to see you. It is embarrassing that when I see a 4-star general or a 4-star admiral, I still look down at my shoes. And I wonder if they're shined. And when I saw you earlier in the reception, the first thing I did was look at my shoes. I said to myself, not bad for a civilian. But, you know, in the old days, the Marines didn't have a real seat at the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I can remember when I told General Pete Pace, your predecessor, that I was going to nominate him to the president to become the chairman of the Chiefs. He said, "Mr. Secretary, that shows what a wonderful sense of humor you have." Well, we've come a long way, and I congratulate you, and I thank you for your really, truly outstanding service to our country. You are an inspiration. Colonel Manion and Ryan and the Travis Manion team, congratulations on your, I guess it's close to a decade of work now. That's impressive. Red, you, it's really a privilege to meet you and to say hello to you. You certainly have my congratulations on your well-earned recognition. I wonder if we all ought to chip in and buy him a razor. No, I'm just kidding. You look good. You look good. I just flew in from Montana to be here tonight. That's a heck of a long way. I left eagles and owls and moose and deer and pheasants and my wife and 2 dachshunds, cows and calves. And I got into my penguin suit this evening wear that I'm not very used to living out in Montana, I can tell you. But when I heard from Ryan about this evening and the Patriots who would be here, I decided to make that long trek from southwestern Montana so that I could thank also the people who support the foundation and support military charities. It's enormously important that you do it, and I thank you, each of you, for what you do and urge you on. To the family members of those who serve and those who have served and of the fallen, you also have served, and God bless you. Now, it's a bit embarrassing to date myself. I was in the Congress in the 1960s, and I had a friend, that's a long time ago. I had a friend named Milton Friedman, who was a Nobel laureate in economics, and he came to me and he said, "Don, we ought to have an all-volunteer military, and you ought to introduce legislation to do that." And I did. And we ended up with an all-volunteer military that happens to be the finest military on the face of the earth. Every single person who serves is doing it because they want to. Not one person today was conscripted, was drafted, was said this is something you have to do regardless of what your personal preference might be. And they're doing what they decided to do because they wanted to do it, and they understand the importance of defending our freedoms. And the American people are deeply grateful. So I was present at the creation of the all-volunteer force, and I'm a believer in it and a supporter of it, but it has a downside. In the old days, we used to have a giant intake, and we'd draft everyone, not everyone. We'd draft many people, males only, not females, certain exemptions for various people, teachers, students, and various others. And we ended up with a fine military, but it was a slightly different military. But one of the downsides of the all-volunteer force is that there are a lot of people in our society who've never served and who may not even know people who've served. And despite all the pluses of having a volunteer force, and I'm a strong believer in it, there is that downside. So what the Travis Manion Foundation does is important. Connecting with people who are not in the military, who haven't been in the military, who may not even know people in the military, is enormously important. And I think that advantage that is coming from military charities that interact with the private sector, with people in the private sector, who connect them with the military, the veterans, the military families, the families of those who are fallen, they'll see that that community of ours truly embodies the values of service, of character, and of patriotism. So that's why the Travis Manion Foundation's Character Does Matter program is such an important initiative. Ryan, what you and your team, Colonel, it's good to see you there. What you do is appreciated and it's valued. I thank those who do the important work of the foundation, but I also thank everyone in this room who supports the work of this foundation. Thank you very much.